Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rolling Stories. My name is Adrian, and this is the HR podcast supported by Rolling Arrays. The HR department is taking a shift. HR managers now need practical HR skills and competencies to be excellent contributors to the business. Traditional HR responsibilities include recruiting, hiring, retaining talents, and comm and ben. But with changing times and demands, HR professionals now also participate as the organizations advocate to build employee relationships, develop business strategies, and more importantly, bring mediation between employees and employers. Handling all these diverse duties is not a cakewalk. It requires practical skills and competencies for any HR professional to keep their A game on. And with that, to discuss more with us on this is Ms. Kangan Arora. She is the head of People Impact at CBRE, a company that operates across every dimension of commercial real estate. Hi, Kangan. Welcome to the show.
Really nice to have be here, Adrian. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
To begin with, could you do a quick self-intro to help our listeners understand a bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I am Kangan, and I have been in HR space for the last 15 plus years. I've worked in different segments or industries, starting from insurance to technology to consulting to NGO and then telecom and real estate. So have really been an engineer per se, and then decided to move into the HR space. So I believe, it has been exciting for the last 15 plus years, and moving on to create more impact.
Awesome. And of course, with that, who better to talk to us today about HR competency than someone like yourself? So let's jump straight in. In your opinion, what are some of the key HR competencies that you believe will be critical for HR professional success in 2023? And importantly, for people that may not have them, how to go about acquiring them?
It's really important to understand the context when we talk about HR competencies. What is happening around the world with global pandemic, economic slowdown, uncertainties, social injustice, and a lot of these things actually create the context that we are in. So it's very important for us to understand, with all of this going in the background, how do we decide to create a high impact in our organizations. And for me, it's really important for us to look at actions or the areas that we want to see ourselves into. For example, one of them could be, how do we accelerate our business? And do we play a part in accelerating our business? What is our strategy on advancing human capability, which is all about three things, right? Talent, leadership, and organization. So how do we advance that human capability, or are we accelerating them, or are we acting as a barrier in advancing them?
And for HR practitioner who may be quite new to this, regardless of the industries that they may be in, how do you suggest them taking baby steps to learn more about the business? I know it seems to be quite a no-brainer, but I just want to make sure that everyone knows, or all the listeners would know, how do I take the first step in getting more thorough information and to know exactly the ins and outs of my employer?
Very, very good question. I think if you have to go back to the basics, which is so foundational, I guess talk to your people. Talk to your people on what do they do. If it's a tech company, understanding what the architects are working on or what the data mining team is working on and why are they working on. How does their day look like from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the evening? I think understanding that piece will help us understand what those jobs entail, and then primarily reading our financial reports on a regular basis, talking to our customers, making sure that we are actually spending some time not only with our employees but also with our clients at the end of the day. So I think these three steps, and being courageous, asking questions from on all of these steps, like you rightly pointed out, and thinking of each problem and getting into it in a problem solving mode, which I think that's my reason of why I'm in HR.
And I also had a conversation with another friend recently, and she was telling me there are definitely a lot of other things that one you can look at to have better understanding and digestion of what the company does. And that even include things like What are some of the customer reviews that you've been getting? Who are your competition? How are your competition priced against the company that you're working for? All this will be able to give you small little nudges of information, which of course then you can piece it together and see from an HR perspective how you could help different departments. And on this, of course, I will also imagine in terms of the business process, the operations process itself might also be something that HR can play a part to perhaps simplify or to make it more efficient. Are there any instances or examples of how HR can play a part in this to simplify the process and to make them more efficient?
Yeah, sure, Adrian. But just before I go to that part, right, I think on your earlier question, you rightly pointed out about your discussion with your friend. And I think on influencing a business, right, if you have to ask me for three things, I would just say know about your talent, know about your organization, because your talent is making the organization, because I firmly believe that you can fight a war with talent, but you cannot win a war without the talent coming together, which is organization. So I think that's one piece. And the third thing is knowing your leadership. What is their strategy? Where are they getting towards? Why are they going towards the priorities that they're talking about? And what do they need to succeed? I guess these are the small things. And now coming back to the next question that you asked me, which is about, if I'm not wrong, can you repeat that? It's more about simplifying
Simplifying,
processes.
correct. And based on your understanding and perhaps to your observation on other companies as well, have you seen any specific overcomplicated process that in your opinion, should just be easily made simplified?
Yeah, it starts from internal transfers. How does an internal transfer get another role? I guess it's a very simple process. If there are successors identified, they go through a very shorter process rather than a longer winded process, and then the decisions are taken. While of course there are companies where we have different protocols and maybe similar protocols for an external and an internal candidate.
Yes, exactly. And of course, I think employee experience is really the key thing nowadays as company faces tougher and tougher competition in trying to attract talent, to retain talent. And of course, the entire employee experience also include the very important aspect, which would be on leadership, something that you mentioned earlier on. And I'd like to touch on that a little bit as well. Leadership obviously play a very huge part, a very crucial portion in the way the company, the business move ahead. And all that, of course, will have a material impact on what the employee think, what the public think, etc. And to do so, obviously, within the HR context, you need very strong cooperation from the leadership team. How has that gone for you so far? Has it been, I'm imagining instance where perhaps there may be certain instance where leadership might not be that bought in to the HR aspect, to what the HR strategy is. What are some of your personal experience on that?
I personally think that I have had great partners in the leadership space, because at the end of the day, they leaders and needs to see the value that we are bringing on the table. And I think it all comes from us partnering with them on their vision. So ideally, if they are questioning our vision, I guess it boils down to either we've not understood their vision, or we have not, or they have not understood how we are partnering with them. So honestly, it's all about.
Right. And with what you're seeing right now as we move more into 2023, and with COVID just, in a way, going down and going back to normal, what do you foresee to be key challenges for HR moving forward? I've spent some time speaking with different people, and different people have different opinions. A HR practitioner was telling me, I think HR is wearing too many hats, because over time HR has been told to, you have to put on the wellness hat, you have to put on the engagement hat, the marketing hat, etc. So to them, that's one key challenge that they're looking at. In your opinion, are there any specific challenges that really jump out at you?
I personally think that in the HR space and how I see us evolving, because I personally truly believe that it's the best time to be in HR. And for us, it's the challenge is not about, we need to shift from what we know, and now we need to shift from that to how do we deliver the value. It's very, very important. And to succeed in the marketplace, because at the end of the day, if we are not successful in the marketplace, we don't have an existence. So that's point number one, that we need to see how do we deliver the value, then what do we already know. Then the second one is about using the power of small data. We know a lot about the ground, and I think our leaders are expecting us to give them the pulse of the ground.
Do you have a personal routine to get yourself up to date on all these changes, best practices, things you have to do to stay ahead of the curve? And any recommendation for the listeners out there who is keen to learn more, but again, do not know where to start?
One of the clear things is what we are doing right now is just listen to a lot more people from similar like-minded people on what is happening in their organization.
And one of the other thing I've been hearing from the ground is the proliferation of having executive coaches. And it seems like a great way for people to have very dedicated, specialized one-to-one learning session in order to scale up in a very specific area, which could easily be one of the key HR competencies that you mentioned. What is your personal opinion on executive coaches? Do you think it may be something that fits well into someone who is trying to upskill and gather more HR competencies?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I guess first of all, we need to understand whether we are looking for mentors or coaches, and maybe we need both, and both add value a little bit differently. Mentors are people we kind of want to help. We want them to help us in modeling and navigating the path of our careers. And coaches are more for reflecting and helping and asking the right question to us, that we come up with answers ourselves.
So obviously there are plenty of ways for us to learn. You just take the willing heart, approach this, and to be open to embracing all this new information and new download that you can possibly get, not just from textbook, but from people as mentors or as coaches to help you level up and to keep yourself current and stay ahead of the curve. And with that, thank you so much for coming onto the show today. But before we let you go, are there any parting words that you have for our listeners who are very concerned about acquiring more key competencies for their success in 2023?
I guess my parting words would be to have the courage, ask the right question. Feedback is a gift, and I guess asking the right question is not making you any low or high in anybody's lens. I guess have the courage and be ready to rise up. This is the right time and the best time to be in HR. So, learn as much as you can, and this will actually open your paths to a much more strategic HR journey.
Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adrian.